Welcome to the Vault Archons. I am the Keeper of Keys, Kraz, and today we're just going to be doing a little bit of sleeping and chatting. So, Keyforge looks to be doing pretty well. Sales numbers last I saw, when I checked them today, sales were about I shouldn't say sales. The number of registered decks was about 6,000 today, within the last 24 hours, I should say. And so that means that the month preceding that was closer to 4,500. So there was about a 1,500 deck increase in the number of registered decks. So I'm curious if that's still a little bit of Christmas stuff coming in, or if the overall number of people buying decks has increased, the rate of people buying decks has increased. So I don't know. Just found that kind of interesting. It does seem like there's a slight uptick in the number of people picking up Keyforge. At least that's the way it appears initially. So I'm going to keep an eye on that and see what it kind of does. I'm starting to keep track every day of the change in deck registration. Keeping track of a couple other things, which I'll cover in the future once I have a better grasp of what they mean. So I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. I hope life's treating everybody well. I actually have a video I'm posting before this one that I filmed yesterday, and I was so tired I fell asleep on my desk and I didn't manage to get it posted. So, sorry, fell asleep on everybody and I didn't manage to get the video up when I planned. So sorry about that, but I will be posting it before this video. So that's what happened yesterday. So I'm working on just kind of sleeving these up and getting them put away. Probably on this first pass I'm just going to single sleeve them while I chat. Not going to worry so much about double sleeving them right now. I do need to, you know, and also I have a deck to open today, which I'll be getting to later. So it is very interesting that the number of people registering decks, or at least the number of decks being registered, has increased. That's an interesting thing to see. I do like seeing something like that. I think that's kind of cool. I do think that Keyforge is going to gain popularity, so I don't think that we're at the end of this overall upward trend. You know, I think there is going to be an overall upward trend. I just don't know where that trend ends. And so at some point we'll see where that trend ends, but I don't know exactly where that is. It's interesting to watch and pay attention to, and just kind of cool overall to just kind of think about. I know some people find these kind of videos boring, so for the people that find this kind of stuff boring, well, you're probably not going to enjoy this video very much. Because I'm just kind of talking about random things, and I do this from time to time. I do like double miasmas. That's a really nice one to have. And then, of course, I have an Umquid Fair. So, cool decks. These are all, you know, decent decks. There was a couple I removed. I'm not even going to bother sleeving. They're not even what I would play in my lowest tier of decks. There's kind of a group, a level at which I wouldn't play them. They'd be good learner decks, but not much other than that. So, and I do have some learner decks, and I'm still waiting on those tokens. We'll see what happens, you know, how long that takes for those to arrive. They're just a, you know, semi-translucent plastic, you know, small, probably about inch-sized chips. So, and they come in 4 different colors. So I will have those here pretty soon. But yeah, no, well, I guess I will double sleeve these because I think I double sleeved all the command cards because I'm not showing those anymore, and I don't know if any of these decks were not scanned or not. Next holiday that rolls around that I actually, you know, do anything about, I'll change that. And we'll probably do the same thing and and see who gets the codes around then. Hopefully I can get a hold of some more Mavericks between now and then, but we'll see. I'm not really wanting to buy much else for this set. I think, you know, I don't need to pick up anything else for this set. You know, other than what I'm going to open every day, I'm going to have more than enough. You know, that's the way things will generally be. So I'm really enjoying Keyforge. One of my buddies finally decided to buy some decks. So that's another person that I'll be able to play some more with. He's been playing with my decks up until now. But he did finally decide to pick some of his own up, which is really cool, and he opened them, and I look forward to playing his first deck and his other decks that he opened. I think he has 2. So that's going to be really cool to get to play him, play his actual decks. And then, of course, we'll probably play some more of mine, or we'll play, you know, some of the other games like Axis and Allies, or something else. You know, got plenty of other games to check out. And at some point I might even, you know, put some of those games on here, you know, with more information and do all that. I just haven't, I mean, I haven't even really made an official "this is how you play Keyforge" video. So at some point I probably will do something like that and then show some other games and stuff. But I'll probably label those so that if people, you know, so that people that don't want to look at content that isn't Keyforge don't have to look at it. But yeah, so I'll probably add some of that stuff in the future. I just need to get a hold of more of the games. I just don't have a lot right now, and so I do need to pick some of those up. Definitely need to get another camera. I think that's going to be February. In February, I believe that's when I'll finally pick up a new camera, and that should really improve the video quality. And at the same time, I'll probably pick up some actual editing software so I can add some imagery to the beginning and, you know, do a couple other cool things. You know, like if I make mistakes in the video, I can then just go back and, you know, I'm sure, you know, YouTube allows you to, you know, go back and add in, like, you know, postscript or something, because I've seen videos that do that, so it's got to be an option somewhere. I just have to figure out how it's done. So I need to get a hold of some of that kind of stuff, and I'll probably do all that in February, because this month I have a birthday to celebrate, and, you know, my daughter, so we have to do that, and just stuff to do, you know, stuff to take care of and stuff to do. So but yeah, looking forward to definitely getting some upgrades in that respect, because I think that's really one of the things I need more than anything else, is an upgrade to the video quality. And I need to install some stuff so that it's easy for me to record gameplay, and where it has nice clear video also. So I think once I get that done, that's probably when I'll start doing gameplay and how to play videos and stuff like that. I just didn't want to do that while my quality wasn't really good, because, you know, those videos are far more likely to get more views than this kind of stuff. And so I want at least those to be where the quality has finally ticked up. And it just seems like a good time to pick that stuff up before I do those. Because I do really want to make some, you know, how to play videos for Keyforge. I think that would be fun to do. I think it'd be enjoyable. And then some actual gameplay. I'm also going to be picking up Gloomhaven here pretty soon. And I am very tempted to do some of the play videos for that. You know, just doing a playthrough of Gloomhaven. I don't know if I will or not, but if I do, it'll be labeled as such, and, you know, people who don't want to see that don't have to, you know, we'll be able to get around it. But yeah, so I will be adding more content types in the future. A lot of it is more, I just have to get to the point to where I have that option. I just need, you know, I need to put more money into picking that stuff up and doing those things. But once I have the opportunity to, I will. So that is coming at some point in the future. I just, you know, like I said, can't really guarantee when. But when that happens, I will definitely be letting people know, and I'll have those kind of videos up at that time. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to flip these over. So that kind of stuff is coming eventually. I mean, I will branch out. I'm not just going to do only Keyforge indefinitely. I didn't know what I was going to do when I started. And so now I think I'm just going to cover games in general. I am going to concentrate on Keyforge, so there is still going to be a lot of Keyforge content. It'll probably primarily still be Keyforge content. Matter of fact, I can say it will primarily still be Keyforge content. And so, but I am going to branch out a little bit more to give myself some variation. Things like opening a daily deck will continue. At some point I may or may not, but we'll see. I definitely will be doing that for the entire beginning of the next expansion as well. And I may just do it the entire time. I don't know. I have to think about it and see whether it's something I will continue indefinitely. Indefinitely seems like a considerably long time to do something where you're just like, I will do this for the next 2 years. It's like, I don't know. Maybe. But I will be doing other things, and like I said, definitely a lot of Keyforge related stuff. I want to get to where I can record the video of us playing these games. But like I said, the camera quality is something that just has to come first. Because if I don't improve the camera quality first, you're not going to be able to read the cards. They're all going to be at distance. It's all going to be blurry. It just wouldn't be good. And I don't think that would be a good move. So I do need to improve this stuff first. And so that is, you know, like I said, it's in the future. The daily box openings, those will continue for a while, at least another month, maybe longer. I've already got this entire month of daily decks planned out, where I've got the decks to do the entire month already. So I've got that already taken care of, and that will be happening. I don't know if I'm going to continue that next month or whether I will do something else. But I have a lot of decks where, you know, if I get the camera equipment next month, I can then start doing play videos of... Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Probably gonna be a little skip in the video there. But yeah, so I'm basically just, you know, getting this stuff done, doing as much of it as I can, getting ready to see, you know, how this does locally when I give it away, you know, whether it increases in popularity or kids just decide they don't like it. I think it will increase in popularity. That's just my guess. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea how it's going to impact the Magic community. It could be a positive for Magic, and it could be a negative for Magic. That's the reality. It could be a positive if it attracts a whole new crowd that then finds some interest in trading card games. It could be a negative if it pulls away the player base from... you know, if at the same time as it bringing in new players also eats away at the player base of Magic, that could be bad for Magic. But I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I think that happening is more contingent on Wizards of the Coast mismanaging the product, which is definitely something they're good at doing. So that would be the far more likely candidate for what would do damage to the to Magic itself. Like, that's something I think is far more likely to happen for Magic to suffer. That's my guess. I think overall Magic will continue on, even though it's very, very mismanaged. Like I've said before, I think it will continue far into the future. Just generally speaking, I don't foresee it being what it is now indefinitely. I just think that, like all aging products, you know, it does have its maximum life. I just don't know what that is. I don't know if, you know, if that is just the overall other card games eventually taking it down, digital taking it down. Now, if it can find a big foothold in digital, then, you know, it may, you know, survive even further into the future. So, you know, that's why I said I don't know, you know, how the player bases will interact. I don't know if they'll cooperate or if they'll be, you know, antagonistic to one another. I don't think so. I think that, you know, the gaming community as a whole is pretty friendly. Sorry about knocking the camera there. I think the gaming community overall is relatively friendly, so I don't foresee it being an issue, and I don't really see much conflict between, you know, Magic and Keyforge, in my opinion. But, you know, again, I could be completely wrong about that. You know, it's easy to lose track of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I guess we'll see. You know. I mean, it really depends on how things, you know, what happens in the market. you know, does Keyforge ever even get close to Magic's sales numbers? That's a tall order for any game. Like I said, Keyforge is its own element, its own kind of thing. It's really its own. It's a new genre of card game, and so I don't know if they ever will compete in the same way, just because they're so different. Trading card game cards and Keyforge are not the same thing. They're not even. They're really not in the same playing field, in my opinion. It's like, how do you compete on a new playing field when you're not even part of that market? Magic, trading card games are not part of the unique deck game market. They may have overlapping players, but they're not part of each other's markets. You don't buy Keyforge for the reason you buy Magic. The reason you buy Magic is for deck building. If you want a deck build, that's generally where you go. You generally get a good gameplay, from those. As long as everybody's decks are kind of balanced. Now, if you have super unbalanced decks or super, limited selection of decks because everybody's playing, meta decks, I mean, I guess that's a whole different story. But I think overall in your local scene, if that's not a problem, then you're going to see a lot of variation in decks and a lot of cool stuff, and I think that's cool. I do, like I said, I do still play a little bit of Commander. My deck is terrible. I'll just admit that right off the bat. My deck is horrible, and because I'm not willing to spend money on it. I think that's too much of an investment for a single playable object. That's just how I feel about it. But overall, like I said, I don't think they're in the same market. I think Magic and Keyforge are truly in different markets, and have different player bases. And like I said, their player bases may overlap at points, but I don't think that they're really the same thing. I think they're different enough that the player base that Keyforge is going to attract is going to be a different mindset of player base than Magic, and you have a certain mindset if you're a deck builder. For people who like deck building, you have a very specific mindset. I mean, like, everybody who likes deck building has a specific mindset. I like deck building, so I do have that mindset. And so I'll probably always play a deck builder of some kind. But it does have its key inherent imbalance issues, and people, basically making super decks out of all the expensive cards. You have that problem, and so there's an inherent issue there that you don't find in a game like Keyforge. In Keyforge, now Keyforge has a different issue, which I don't know how many people have seen yet, or like what is the expected outcome of the issue. But basically, there is deck chasing. So there is not really an elimination of chase cards, in my opinion. There are deck chasers. You're going to have deck chasing. And these are going to be people looking for the uber decks. They're going to try and chase down the combination that they think is super. And so you are going to have deck chasing in Keyforge, which is going to be the thing. It won't be card chasing, it'll be deck chasing. And there's going to be such a large variance of decks, it's going to take a while, I think, before people really understand which decks to go after. And the first, tournament play is really going to solidify, because you're going to see a lot of unusual decks show up at tournament play. There's just going to be a lot of unusual and powerful decks in there. And probably the top 100 decks in tournament play are really the ones people are going to look at, and see if they can find ones that are better or on par, like on par with the top 10 or better than the bottom 90. It's like, can I find a combination better than deck number 85 on the power list? Oh, cool, look, I have all the cards that were good about that deck, and then I have some better ones than that deck had. That's the kind of stuff I think people are going to start looking for, especially when you start seeing tournament play come about, or just decks that are really unusual. You'll see people go, oh, can I find a better deck? And then they'll check on the vault and they'll see whether the deck generation is common or rare, because certain deck generations are super rare. You see almost no decks that have certain combinations, so you definitely have that kind of limitation on, certain deck builds. So I do find that interesting. Like, I'm kind of curious where that goes in the long run. Where you've got these unusual deck builds that people will be keeping an eye on. Is, did it ever come out with some kind of crazy, super powered, version of it, where, as the random algorithm was spitting decks out? Ooh. I just noticed something. Oh, it is. I just found a misprinted deck. I've been sleeving it this whole time. So look. Completely off-centered. So there are misprints. Very interesting. Huh. Well, that's fascinating. Well, that put this deck in a different category. I definitely like to keep my misprints. Wow, look at how close this one's printed to the edge. That is really weird. So cool. So I like stuff like this. I like misprints. It wasn't all the cards, it was just that card. Oh, that is wild. So look at this. So did it start at the beginning? No. So as it was printing these cards, it started printing closer to the edge, and then it recognized its error and it corrected it. That is really cool. I wonder if it did that multiple times. Okay, I'm back again. So I just wanted to show the miscut on this. So if you look really closely, you can see how the border is completely, or sorry, not miscut, but misprint. On this, you can see how the border is really far off from one to the other. So that is the misprint. And these are both in the same deck. So very interesting misprint to have. So I just wanted to show everybody that. And it's not the only one in here. All these, this one right here is also off-centered. And this one's also slightly off-centered. So it looks like the printer, this one again is also off-centered. Looks like the printer slowly went off-center or started off-center and then corrected it. So it corrected how off-center it was, either all at once as it was slowly printing off-center, or it did it slowly over time. It went a small amount back to get the printer head realigned, or something along those lines. Like something went wrong with the printer head, or the print alignment, and it printed those cards out of alignment. So that's really cool. That's a really cool deck to have something that's misaligned. So I will be pulling this one out and putting it somewhere else. It's not going to be a played deck, just because of the misprint. And I don't know how common this misprint is. I'm sure I'm repeating myself. I got interrupted mid-video by a lot of things, and then dinner, and so I just kind of, everything just got eaten up, and so this video is going to be all kind of messed up with cuts in it because of just how much noise there's been and other things that have just kind of been a slight distraction in this video. So, but yeah, so that's just such a cool side thing to run into, a misprinted deck. So this video has apparently become about misprints. That was not my initial intention. How rare and how common are misprints? I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of them. As I've said before in this video, I do believe I have a second misprint floating around somewhere. But it's such a tiny, minute misprint that it's nothing compared to these misprints. So I'll have to look into that and see how many misprint decks there are, how common that kind of misprint stuff is. I'm actually going to move the Mars to the front because I want to get the misprints. So let's see, Mother Gun is misprinted. Okay, so I'm going to reverse this house. I'm going to put all the misprints here. I think that one's slightly off center. Mother gun's slightly off center. That psychic network is definitely off center. Then we'll add the creatures in here. So yeah, that's really cool. So we've got that one that's off center, 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 and then the rest I think are pretty well centered. But the biggest, the farthest off center is definitely this one. The Mind Warper's pretty far off. The Think Drone is a little bit off. Squawker's pretty far off, and Mother Gun is also pretty far off. So that's actually really interesting. Now, if you want to see the original order of the misprints and how they how the printer went slowly off track or went on track, does it go up or down? 174, 196. Yeah, that's just weird how it did that. So very, very cool deck. Like seeing that one. I'm going to put that off to the side. We'll take care of that later. So that's cool to see. See an interesting kind of weird misprinted deck. So yeah, so I guess we'll continue on from there and see what else we run into. So I probably should go back through all my decks and see if I have other misprints. Because I haven't really been paying attention to see if I had anything like that, but it's very possible I do. It's very likely that I could have something like that floating around in here and not even know it. So yeah, so I guess keep an eye out for misprints. Unfortunately, you're not going to see the misprint until after you open the deck. So a misprinted deck, very likely you won't even know it has a misprint until after you open the deck, and then you get to see the misprint. I'm sure there's, I have heard about decks that are misprinted in for example, they get half of two different decks. That is definitely a misprint, but the problem with a deck like that is it's a misprint that's very falsifiable. So even if you did get the incorrectly printed where it put half of one deck and half of another deck in the same box, the problem that you have with that is you have no way to prove that it put half of one or half of the other. And so anybody could take half of one deck and half of another once it's out of its package, and say, oh, well, yeah, these were printed together, unless there's something that ties them together. Like, for example, is the name misprinted? Is the back the same? Like, is it literally a misprint where it printed the wrong face on the wrong back, and it has the correct name and everything, but it's the wrong creature pool? But if it has the other name of the other deck, there's almost no way to prove that misprint, because then it just looks like you put two decks together. And so as much as you know it's a misprint, there's no other way to prove it. I have heard of that misprint. I don't know if the deck names and all that are transposed. That would be a way to tell the misprint, but if it's not, then there's no way to tell the misprint, and hence it won't hold any value because there's no way to prove it. Anybody could say, oh, look, I have a 50% this deck, 50% that deck. And since anybody can say that and there's no way to prove it, there's no way that deck will maintain any value. So that's interesting. Other misprints were the names, which we've talked about before. The name misprint decks where they had potentially obscene names. Those only exist in the first print run. So the second print run, you'll never find one of those decks. So I don't know what the value of first print run is right now. I'm guessing it's probably still 140 or greater to get a hold of a first print run box. Matter of fact, it might be even more than that. I don't know how much first print run is still out there. I don't think very many people kept first print run. I think first print run was bought out quickly and opened quickly. So I don't think there's very much first print run out there. Like, I have a lot of first print run, but it's open. And there's no way to tell first print run from second print run right now. I don't believe they've changed the print year yet. Let's see. This still says 2018 Fantasy Flight. Maybe the next set of boxes I'll get will say 2019. Now, if the calendar ticks over, that's going to be interesting, because then you're going to see all the cards that were printed in 2018 versus all the cards that were printed in 2019. Now, you'd have to be able to see the cards to actually see that, that print difference is there. Well, that's still a pretty cool possibility. I don't know if it'll happen. It would make sense to. Oh, look, there's a little bit of damage on the side of that card. Let's pull it out of there. See if it's easy to fix. Yep, it is easy to fix. And it's one of the reasons I'm double sleeving all these. You can see a tiny bit of damage there now. You can flatten these back out. Sometimes you can completely fix it, and sometimes you can't. It just depends on how it got dinged. And usually this ding is not even always from you opening it. It's from packaging, handling of the machine. Like, I'm pretty sure that a lot of these are handling the machine errors. So that's an interesting little thing. You see these weird marks around the outlet, and I'll show them to you. Usually you'll end up with marks that sometimes I believe they're in this range on both sides. And sometimes you get machine damage. And then there's also ones where it doesn't print and you get this like interesting border around them. That's not as much of a misprint as just an error in the printing process. Those are actually normal. They're not counterfeit decks. I have a good number of those floating around, some of which I've given away or will be giving away. So they're, they are kind of a misprint, so they could have value. I don't know. But I am giving some of those away just, because I thought it would be interesting to give out some stuff that's not completely plain. Give out a couple interesting things. I've considered putting a Maverick or two inside of the selection, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or not yet. And a lot of it just depends on how many kids I have. If I need more decks, I could easily pull some of those and pull some other, pull some other stuff. And so I just haven't made a full decision on anything yet. I'm still waiting to see how this goes. I'm waiting on the tokens to arrive so that I can finish setting this up. Man, this one really wants to just slide out of the sleeve. So I gotta get my fingers around it. Come on. There we go. There we go. I think that'll take care of that one. Oops. But yeah, so there's some interesting stuff like that. I definitely am excited about everything coming up, and overall, like I said, I think you can really find some cool stuff in Keyforge. There's a lot of really cool and interesting decks you can pick up. The misprints are really cool. Like, having a misprint now, I'm just like, that is so awesome. I have a misprint. So excited about the misprint. That's probably my favorite deck now. Not because of its power level, no other reason other than the fact that it has a cool misprint that I like. Yeah, maybe not my favorite deck, but it's definitely one of the decks where I'm like, that is a really cool deck. I really like it. Definitely gonna keep it. If it was a comic, I'd just be like, yeah, definitely keeping that deck. It's a misprint. Or sorry, definitely keeping that comic. It's a misprint. If it was a Magic card, well, there's a lot of misprints in there, so I probably wouldn't worry about it. They're too common. They're not worth that much. But for a game like Keyforge with the serious lack of misprints, that one's definitely cool to have. I just haven't seen a lot of misprints. Now, like I said, the number may be much greater than I know, in which case it wouldn't be worth very much if there's a ton of misprints. But as far as I know, there's not a lot of misprints. I haven't heard a lot about misprints, even on forums and stuff. And so if you haven't heard a lot about misprints, and there's almost, what, 400 and something thousand decks, 430,000 decks, 432,000 or whatever it is. There's some large number of decks out there. If you haven't heard a lot about misprints with that number of decks, there's probably not a lot of misprints. Now, if the machine got wonky at some time in the future, it is possible to end up with a bunch of misprints in the future print. So that's definitely a possibility. So you definitely want to pay attention to that. So they could tank the value of a misprint by at some point, you know, having the machine go wonky and misprint a bunch of the same starting set, as long as they still say 2018 on them. If they change to 2019, which I'm not going to go buy a new display until the end of this month, for next month, and then we'll find out if the although you're still going to have stuff that was printed beforehand. So at some point, I believe the date will probably roll over, and if it does, that's going to be another thing that I think will be cool, another collectible benchmark. Because if it flips over to 2019, that means all Call of the Archon decks that are labeled 2018 are just earlier print. And you know, earlier print usually means something. Although I'm not entirely sure whether it is going to mean something in Keyforge, unless it's part of sealed. Like if it's a sealed first print run box, that's a whole different story, because you can get some things that you can't get later in those first print. You know, like any changes they make during the second print run, you know, like tweaking probabilities and stuff like that. Anything they do like that from the first print to the second print is going to be, you know, what they do inside the second print is going to have some interesting consequences, I guess, because in your first print you don't see a lot of the issues you see in your second print. Or sorry, in your second print you're not going to see a lot of the issues you're going to see in your first print, because the first print there's no corrections there. There's no box changes. There's nothing like that. So anything in the second print, as long as the box stays the same and the way they've packaged everything stays the same, even if they do make minor changes there, you won't know the difference between, you know, one box and the next unless the date changes to 2019, at which point you won't know until you opened it. So, you know, there is that, unless there's more changes to come with it. So hope everybody has a good night. I'm going to post this video on the one that I made last night in just a couple of minutes, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night.